Thank you all for showing up today. We do appreciate it, and we appreciate all you are doing and your patience as we go through everything that we're going through. Know that the Faculty Success Center is here to do whatever we can to help you out, and IT is working very hard to try to minimize all the issues that are going on right now with that. And you know, we're all in this together, and we're doing what we can to help you help students, so we appreciate you very much. And I guess we'll get started. So today we are covering Zoom. I'm David Kobb. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I work in the Faculty Success Center with my colleague Molly Pfaff in the back there. Molly, raise your hand. And then our supervisor Dale Fredericks, our fearless leader. So what we're going to cover today is Zoom. We're going to start with the very basics of what Zoom is, the benefits of using Zoom. Yeah. Oh, yes. Good. Sorry about that. If you want, you can go to zoom.us. So the first time you log into some of these stations, it takes forever to load your profile. We've brought it up many times. I just don't think there's anything that can be done about it. So sorry about that, and appreciate your patience. I'll show you how to create a meeting, how to join a meeting that someone else has created, how to invite participants to your meeting, how to manage them from within the meeting, the various meeting controls that allow you to do different things from within the meeting, how to annotate slides, what Zoom provides in the way of accessibility for their meetings. We'll do a little bit of hands-on practice, and then I'll go over some general remote meeting web conferencing tips. Zoom at a glance. If you remember, if you were here last year teaching, we had the Snowmageddon, where campus was closed for like a solid week or two. I don't remember exactly how long. It happened just after I got hired. So I thought I could get used to this, work a day, 5 days off, work a day, 5 days off. Fortunately, that didn't continue. Or, you know, if you can't remember Snowmageddon, you are now witnessing the Corona-mageddon, unfortunately. And we need to be prepared to use tools that are available to maintain communication with our students when we can't come to campus. And also, you know, you can use Zoom even if everything's going great and the campus is open and there's no snow and there's no viruses and everything's going fine, and you just want to have the ability to allow students to speak with you or each other remotely without having to come in. You know, if you have a student that is traveling on vacation and they still have to, you know, ask you a question, they could do so via email, and you can exchange emails back and forth, or you can have one Zoom meeting, speak live, face-to-face, and get it covered in a much quicker, more efficient manner. So there's all sorts of reasons why Zoom is helpful. What are some of the benefits of using Zoom? I started talking about this already. It allows you to bring people from different locations together in one centralized meeting location. This is helpful for things like the coronavirus or snow days. But you can also use it to supplement your office hours, which I've heard from some faculty that a lot of students don't know what office hours mean, and they don't realize that it's actually for them. They think it's time where you like reserve to work in your office and they can't bother you. So you may consider calling it something like student hours instead, just to make it a little bit more clear for, you know, non-traditional students who this is all new to them. But that's kind of besides the point. in addition to providing emergency backup ways to communicate with your students, you can also use it to supplement your classes. So for example, one foreign language instructor in his semester has an individual from South America, I don't remember which country now, somewhere in South America, Zoom in and then have one-on-one conversations with his students, and all of them take their turn and spend like 5 minutes talking with this person, this native Spanish speaker, so they get to practice with, you know, a native Spanish speaker. And it's different to do it face-to-face than it would be to do it over the telephone. You know, this could be accomplished over the telephone, but international charges and not being able to make eye contact and everything. So that's just one example of how you could use it in your class when things are going well and there's no emergency. And Zoom lets you record the meetings, which is very beneficial because right now a lot of us are considering what technology is available to my students and how are those who do not have the needed technology going to be able to maintain you know, their success in your classes. Yes?
Is this like a new Skype, new and improved Skype?
It does the same thing as Skype in many ways, yeah. We use it a lot on campus, so it's just kind of our go-to, but if you're more familiar and comfortable with Skype, you can do a lot of the same things on Skype. I'm not super well versed in Skype, so I don't know if it has some of the like screen sharing annotation features that Zoom does, but at a basic level, you can definitely do the same thing with Skype.
The major difference is that your students have to set up a conference site, but they do not need that.
Yes.
Two questions. Is there a maximum number of students that can come into a Zoom?
Yes, and we will discuss that. I'll answer it right now, but we'll get into a little bit more detail soon. For the free account, the maximum number is 100 in a meeting.
Okay. And then second question is, with the recordings, how long are they available to students? Would they be available for the remainder of the semester? Or?
Yes, so the recordings. Oh, yeah, totally. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So the first question was, is there what's the limit for number of students that can attend a given meeting? And for the free Zoom account, the limit is 100 students in a given meeting. And then the second question, it's already slipped my mind. Can you repeat it, please?
How long are the recordings available?
Thank you. The second question is, because you can record your Zoom meetings, how long are they available? So with the free Zoom account, the recordings are saved locally. So you would save it on whatever device you're using, laptop, tablet, phone, what have you. Because they're saved locally, as long as you keep the file, they'll be available. And you can share that file. You know, you can email it as an attachment, or you can put it in cloud storage and send a link to your students so they can reach it via cloud storage, however you want to share it.
David, sorry, I take somewhere else. Well, you should still be able to access all your recordings. Okay, save them.
So we're going to slow down just a little bit
Sorry.
because a lot of this stuff is going to be covered.
What's the cloud?
So the cloud is internet storage. So instead of saving on your local device, it's saved on a remote device that's located somewhere else. The benefit of using the cloud, the question was, what is the cloud? I don't know why I'm speaking into the speakers. That doesn't help anything whatsoever. The question is, what is the cloud? So cloud storage is, the benefit of cloud storage is it is accessible wherever you have internet access. So it's not tied to a certain device. It's housed in who knows where, on a server, a computer somewhere in the world. And you log on to the website that the server has, and then you access your files there, and you can do it wherever. So if you don't have your flash drive, if you save something onto a flash drive, or if you save it onto your computer and you don't have that with you, like you're on your phone at the airport, you can log into the website of your cloud and access your file there. So the benefit of it is that you can get your file saved there wherever you are with whatever technology you have. Does that kind of answer it?
Well, yeah, you're way beyond me.
All right. Just know that if you save it to the cloud, and there's lots of things that are considered the cloud, you can access that file wherever you have internet access. All right. I'm gonna, for the people joining the meeting via Zoom, I'm gonna try to do a little bit better of repeating questions before providing the answer. I apologize for not being as on top of that as I should be. So some of you are going to want to know how to use Zoom to pretty much its fullest extent, all the functions and features that are available to you. And that's great, and we're going to get into a lot of those. And some of you are not going to want to handle all that. You're just going to want to use Zoom at a very basic level and know, how do I just have a meeting so that I can talk to people and people can talk to me live? And that's fine too, and we're going to cover that as well. To do it at that level, it's a very straightforward and pretty simple process. So what you do is you can use Zoom either from the browser itself by going to zoom.us, and you make an account, which is free for the basic account, or Gail can try to get you a pro account, and I'll discuss the differences between those in a little bit. Or you can download Zoom onto your device and run Zoom from your device. Both are fine ways to do it. There's not a whole lot of differences between the two. Yeah, I don't know if I prefer one way or the other, to be honest with you. Once you have your Zoom account, you can create a meeting, which we'll cover how to do. Creating meetings is a pretty straightforward and simple process. And then when you create your meeting, Zoom will give you a link, and the link will take your students or whoever to that meeting. You can email that link to your class roster and say, you know, this meeting is going on from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Friday the 13th. And then they click on that link, it takes them, they join in with their device, it'll test their audio to make sure that they can hear, you know, and participate in the meeting. And then you just run the meeting. You talk to them, they talk to you, like, you know, you would in the classroom. That's the very basic, easiest way to use Zoom, the minimum way that you can do what Zoom can do. However, yes?
Is there a time limit that you can talk? I mean, like 2 hours?
Right, great question. So normally with the free account, the meetings are limited to 40 minutes. The question was, and there I go talking to the speakers again, it helps me remember to do so. The question was, is there a time limit for the meetings? And the answer is yes for the free account usually. So usually for the free account, meetings are limited to 40 minutes. However, right now with everything that's going on, Zoom has thankfully gotten rid of that limitation and are allowing educational institutions to request to be able to run meetings for longer than 40 minutes. I don't think they have a time limit now.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No, we don't let it run like indefinitely, but.
Yeah. So.
Would it be advantageous to have the pro account or have the free account?
So if you can get the pro account, you should, because there are some more tools that you can use and fewer limitations, because the quantity of pro accounts that we have is limited. You want to assess whether or not you would make full use of the pro account, or if you would be able to satisfy your requirements with the free account and leave the pro account for someone that really needs it. And we'll go over all the differences between the two. So you'll have a good idea at the end of this training whether or not the free account is going to cover everything for you, or if you really should have the pro account.
So it would not matter whether it was free or pro, as long as it's unlimited time.
Right now, correct, yeah. So this is just a temporary thing, Zoom says, you know, and hopefully once things get back to normal, the free account will be limited to 40-minute meetings, individual meetings. But right now, you should be able to run them for however long you need to for your class. Yes.
Question for Gail. So if I just contacted you recently and I did get some confirmation from Zoom, was that a pro account or free account?
That's a pro account. The free accounts you sign up on your own. You go to the Zoom site and
Okay.
sign up for an account. If you email me and then you got a response from Zoom after that, that's
Yeah.
a pro account.
Okay, thank you.
So if anyone wants to right now, you can at least set up your free Zoom account from zoom.us. Similar to what happened with Moodle here on campus, a sudden influx of people that weren't there before kind of broke its back. That very well could be happening to all sorts of applications that we use to run our classes. It would not surprise me at all if, like Mary Kay said, Zoom is having a hard time maintaining service with the sudden influx of, you know, tens of thousands of additional users. All I can say is when it's working, it's a good tool, and to keep trying back, because I'm sure that they're working as hard as our IT team to get things running and operational for everyone. It's just unfortunately when you have a huge amount of new users, it can overwhelm things very quickly and severely. So if you can't get it to work right now, check back periodically, and hopefully they'll get it back and running ASAP for everyone. But at least we can learn how to use it so that once it is running, we're ready to get going and you know, help our students out. So Zoom works independent of platform. It works for Microsoft products. It works for Apple products. It also works for mobile devices. We mentioned a little bit already about the differences between the free account and the pro account. Let's see if there's anything that we didn't mention. The free account doesn't allow for meeting hosts to assign co-hosts. So right now I've assigned Molly as a co-host, so she can do a lot of manipulation with my meeting that a regular user cannot. This is useful when you have a big meeting or if you have people in chats. So she's right now, all the people that are Zooming in currently, she's maintaining that chat for them. And so handling their questions and everything and giving them extra information that maybe I can't show them or they can't pick up remotely. There's other things that the co-host can do as well. So that's a nice perk of the pro account versus the free account. But if you're just going to have, you know, 15 students, you may not need a co-host. A lot of what you can do with the free account is accomplishable with the pro, or the pro account is accomplishable with the free account. And the Zoom Pro has everything that the free account can do and just extra, of course. As I mentioned, you can use Zoom on mobile devices. I would not recommend hosting a meeting, especially if you're going to use video on like your phone, because it's a very small screen and you're going to be very limited what you can do inside the meeting on your phone. But students can join the meeting with their phones, which is a very important thing, because with some students, they don't have computers. Their technology is their phone. They can join the meeting. It's going to be a small window, and if you're doing, if you're sharing your screen and doing annotations and stuff, it might be a little difficult for them to really see what's going on. But if that's all they have, that's all they have. And it's better that they can join and hear you and ask questions than absolutely nothing. So know that you can use Zoom on your phone. Yes. So the question was, if you have an Apple device, a mobile Apple device, like an iPhone, which Zoom app is the one that you want? And it is the one that says Zoom Cloud Meetings, because there are several different specialized apps. The general web conferencing app is the Zoom Cloud Meetings, for those of you attending via Zoom. The nice thing that you should know about the Zoom Mobile is that it operates very similar to how it does on your computer. There are some slight differences, but by and large, if you learn how to use it on your computer or laptop, your desktop or laptop, then you're going to know how to use it on your phone and vice versa. You don't have to relearn everything, how to do everything all over again for your phone, because it's very similar in operation. So when you are creating your Zoom account and you've got your Zoom account and you log in, there are various settings that you can change. I'm not going to cover these in detail just for the sake of time. But there are various settings that you can change: audio settings, video settings, general settings, recording settings. It's probably worth your time to get familiar with some of these settings, especially the general video and audio settings, because there might be some tweaks that you want to make your meetings more customized for what you're looking for. Like I said, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of them because there are a lot of different options, but just know that they're there, and you probably should get familiar with some of the basic ones at least. Creating a meeting is a very straightforward process. You can create a meeting from the Zoom website, which I'll show you maybe. Not my password. So when you're in your Zoom account on the website, if you click on your little profile icon, then you see that there's options up here to schedule a meeting or join a meeting that someone else has created and host a meeting. Zoom allows you two basic ways to start a meeting. You can either start an ad hoc, pretty much instantaneous meeting, or you can schedule a meeting. If you're doing this as like a regular thing for your classes at a set day and time, you can make your scheduled meeting reoccurring. So you just make the one actual instance, so you don't have to create a meeting every single time. If you're just going to do this sporadically, then you might not want to schedule the meeting. You might want to do the ad hoc meeting. And that one, I forget what let's see what they actually call it. New meeting. They just call it new meeting. So if you start a new meeting, that can be an instantaneous thing. If you decide that, you know, the student is emailing you and this is a conversation that would be better handled face-to-face as opposed to 25 emails back and forth, you can create an instantaneous meeting, either from the website or from the downloaded app. If you download the app, the screen is going to look like what you see here on the slide. You have the new meeting, you have schedule. If you click the new meeting, you'll enter a little bit of information about the meeting, and it'll give you a link, and then you just share that link with your student, and they click it, and then they join your meeting, and you just start your meeting. So it's a pretty much instantaneous thing. That is good if you didn't plan for this meeting in advance. If you're going to plan your meeting in advance, then you want to do the schedule instead. You'll enter the date of the meeting, what the meeting title is. We can see some of this stuff. So meeting topic, that would be your title. You can give it a description. You can say when the meeting is, what time it meets, what date, how long you think the meeting's going to be. Change time zones if you want to make it a reoccurring meeting. Like I said, if you're going to have, you know, your students meet every Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever at a certain day and time, then you can make it reoccurring. I'll take a pause real quick for questions. Yes.
So you said that you have a ton of reoccurring meetings and it'll send out a link to your students. Will that same link be used each time, or will it have a different link for each meeting?
It should just be the same link for each meeting. The question was, when you do a reoccurring meeting, is the link for each meeting session going to be a different link, or will it be the same link? And I'm pretty sure it's the same link every time. So as I mentioned, at the very basic level, you create your Zoom account and you start a meeting. You are given from Zoom a string of letters that you give your students. You just email them the string, and then they click on it, and it takes them to that meeting at whatever day and time. At the very basic level, that's what it is. And we can do that with you really fast individually. All the more complex stuff is a much longer meeting, and you probably don't want to do anyways. So from within a meeting, you can invite participants. You have this toolbar once you have your meeting going. If you realize you need to add people to the meeting after the meeting has already begun, people that you didn't invite, there's a toolbar in that meeting that allows you to invite people. You see in the slide the little icon that says invite. You can invite them by email. It has your default email application, which you may or may not have set up. It has Gmail and Yahoo Mail. That's fine. It pops open a new window with the information to join the Zoom meeting, and then you fill in the email addresses of who you want to email, and then you send the email, they receive it, they click on the link, it takes them to the meeting. Or you can do it by contacts. So for example, on campus here, when I'm in the Zoom account, it has access to many of my contacts that are in Zimbra. So I can search, Gail Fredericks, and it'll bring up her information. If I don't know someone's email address and it's in my contacts, I search it like I would, if I was sending an email and searching my contacts, and then brings them up. You click them, it sends an email with the invitation to join the meeting. The invitation has a bunch of information. Generally, you just click the link, but there's other ways you can join the meeting, such as like phone numbers and things like that. And all the information is in there. By and large, most people join the meeting just by clicking the link, which is the most straightforward and easiest process. But there is a bunch of gobbledygook in there too. You can leave that in the invite, or you can erase it if you just want them to just concentrate on the link. If anyone's having trouble accessing the meeting, you might want to delete all the non-useful info and just leave the link to make it a lot more easy for them to see, oh, okay, this is what I click and this is how I get to the meeting. When you have your meeting going and you have your participants in it, you can manage your participants in several different ways. You can, there's a chat function, so that people in attendance who don't have a microphone to speak out loud or don't feel comfortable vocalizing out loud and would rather type out their question, they can type it in the chat box. If you're doing this by yourself, you want to keep an eye on the chat box. If you have a co-host, like I have Molly back there, it's useful to have someone doing the presentation while someone is staffing the chat box, because it's really difficult to do both at the same time well. You can also, I'm sorry, one second. You can also control your participants' audio and video settings as well. So if they are sharing their video with you, if they decide when they join the meeting to share their video, but for whatever reason you don't want them to at a certain time, you can turn off their video and it will no longer show. Their video and your video is available to all participants. So if you have a student who is sharing a video, and they have their parent come in and start yelling at them, and you want to save some face for them, you can turn off their audio and video so no one else can hear that. Or if you have someone who's, eating or talking to someone else in their room or just causing a distraction, then you want to actively manage their audio and video. The thing that you want to keep aware of, though, is if you turn off someone's audio, you want to make sure you turn it back on if they have a question, or you're not going to hear them. And generally speaking, I recommend that you request everyone to turn off their audio when they join the meeting. And this is a setting that you can change in the settings. So by default, everyone joins without sharing audio, and then ask them just to turn audio on as they're asking a question. And then when they're done with that question, turn the audio back off. And that way, there's limited distractions and everyone's able to concentrate, and you can just manage the meeting better that way.
From do another video conferencing, that is critical if you have a lot of people on. If not, you got dogs barking, kids. You can't, it's so loud, you cannot hear what's going on. It's like almost an essential first step in setting up a meeting is telling everyone to turn their audio off. Otherwise, you won't be able to conduct anything with any. So just my 2 cents on it.
Thank you. And then the video is important as well, because if you have a large class and a lot of people are joining with video, it can overwhelm the system and cause things to slow down to a snail's pace. And if that happens, just start turning off people's video, and it'll remove some of that weight from Zoom and allow the meeting to go more smoothly. Yes. You'll know if it's too large. You can if you want to allow people to join with their video, you can start with that. and if things are really slow and laggy, you will notice. It'll be very obvious, and then you can start turning it off. 20 should be just fine. People have meetings with like 100 people, and it runs fine. Right now, exactly. And right now, Zoom may not be running as well as it normally does because of the influx of people. So where in the past 20 people would be no problem for Zoom, I don't know, it might be too much for them right now, but you will know, it'll be very obvious when you're using your meeting that things are not going well, and then you can start making your adjustments. So this is the basic toolbar that you'll see when you are hosting a meeting. It'll appear at the bottom of the screen. Many of the tools are self-evident in what they do. Mute, this is for you. This is to mute your audio, not your students' audio. To mute your students' audio, there's going to be, let's see if I can just show you. Nope, not like that. So you'll see this, Zoomers, I'll get back to you in a second, I'm sorry. You'll see this list of students on the right-hand side. You can mute them, unmute them, more, see, ask them to start a video, make them a host or co-host if you have the pro account, allow them to record, rename them. If your students added their name and it was inappropriate, you can rename them, things like that. Which, sometimes not everybody knows how to behave. Video, same thing as the mute, but for video instead of audio. Stop your video. If your kid runs into the room to bother you, you can stop your video real quick so it's not distracting your students. Invite, we discussed already. This is how you invite people to the meeting once the meeting is already underway. Manage participants, we talked about. Share screen, we'll cover in a little bit more detail soon. Do you have a meeting going? It should just kind of, thank you. So I'm going to keep going while that's addressed. So I'll talk a little bit more in depth about what sharing the screen is. And this is one of the best aspects of Zoom, one of the things that helps it really shine, in my opinion. And then you have the chat room where people in the meeting can chat. We've discussed that. You can record the meeting. I do recommend as a best practice to record your Zoom meetings, as I said, because not everybody's going to have the technology to join when the meeting's going on. And you can share it with them so that you have access to the technology. You can access it at a later time. And we won't cover breakout rooms right now. It's a little bit beyond the scope of it. So again, much of the functionality for the mobile app for your phones is the same as the one that you access on your computer or laptop. It has many of the same tools with the mute and the video and sharing content and managing participants and etc. This one has joined. Molly, will you let Susan in, please? Thank you. Move along because we're running out of time. So there are different ways that you can view the meetings as the speaker or as the meeting host or the participant. You have the gallery view, which everyone that has their video shown has their own individual little square. Obviously, the more people that are in the meeting, the more difficult it's going to be to reap any benefits of this. There's also the speaker view, where the participants are kind of limited in their space up at the top, and the speaker, their view takes the main center stage. And there's also some views that you can change when you share your screen. You can choose to have a side-by-side view, where the live video is in one part and then what you're sharing on your computer is in the other half. Or you can have the full screen, which is what you're sharing on your computer is the full screen, and then the video of you is minimized at the top. All right, now we'll get into a little bit more of the details about the annotation, which, like I said, is where I think Zoom really shines. So when you're sharing your screen, you might find it useful at different points to call out something on your screen or mark up something on your screen. Like if you have if you're a music teacher and you're sharing some sheet music on your computer and you want to draw attention to a certain stanza, you can use the annotation tools to draw a circle around that stanza. Or you can add text where you can type out some text on the whatever you're sharing. You can erase it, you can spotlight it, which is like a highlight to make something obvious, just to, I can move my mouse around and maybe you can follow it, but it would help if I had one of those presentation laser pointers to really call something out. That's basically what the spotlight is virtually. It's your little laser pointer to help direct attention for the students toward a certain area of your screen. The eraser is there to erase errant marks or things that you no longer need to have on the screen. There's an undo and redo, so if you accidentally do something, you can undo it, just like you would like on a Word document. If you want to undo some action that you took, you can undo it. And if you decide, oh no, I really want that there, you can redo it, and basically it either removes what you just did or puts what you just removed back. Yes.
Do students have this functionality? Are they able to mark that?
You can give them the functionality and you can take it away. Yeah. And students are also, you can allow students to share their screen. So if they want to ask you a certain question about something and they feel it'd be best to show you what they're looking at, you can allow them to share their screen, and then you'll see what they have on their screen, and they can use annotation to circle it to make it easier for you to see or something like that. What you want to be aware of is when you are sharing your screen, any kind of pop-ups that you might have that arise are going to be visible to your students. So if you have if you have email notifications and you get some spam email for something obscene and that notification pops up, your students are going to see that. So you might want to log out of those kinds of things before conducting your meeting. I mean, you don't have to, but I would. I'll talk a little bit about the accessibility features that Zoom offers. So Zoom does allow for closed captioning. The only way to do this in a live meeting is to assign someone to caption you as you speak, which is a very difficult thing to do. You need to be a very good typer. So for live captioning, it's very difficult to accomplish, but it is theoretically possible. For saved meetings, you can do auto transcription. This is nice that they have it, but it's not. It doesn't work very well. There's going to be a lot of missed words and bad punctuation in the auto captioning. It's better than nothing, but I would recommend that you go through the auto captions and correct the mistakes, because it can be so bad sometimes that the whole meaning of what you're saying is lost on whoever's reading the transcripts. So like I said, it's better than nothing, but I would recommend that you fix up the errors. The Zoom is laid out so that, supposedly, I haven't tested it, but Zoom says that it's entirely accessible via keyboard. So if you have an individual that's not able to use a mouse, they are able to navigate all of Zoom just using the keyboard. Theoretically, Zoom says that this is available, and Zoom also says that it supports the most popular and widely used screen readers, which are used by students that might have visual problems. Have we had, Molly, I don't know why I almost called you Mary, Molly, have we had Talia take a look at Zoom from a accessibility standpoint? Okay. We have a work study student who is blind, and part of what she does for us is test accessibility for various things, and she's very useful and good at what she does, but we haven't had her go through Zoom yet. So ideally it works very well with the major screen readers, but I can't say for certain. Yes?
Does the annotation work with marking up devices like the webcam tablets or iPads?
Very similar, yes. Yeah. So I don't know from like an iPad, if you were to use a stylus, I would imagine that you could get the markup like the pen or pencil to work. But I haven't actually done it to know for sure. I do know that you can use your mouse to write, you know, like you would with a stylus. Obviously, it's not going to be your handwriting, but it's better than nothing. So I know for sure that that works. I'm not so sure about like a stylus when you're doing the annotations, if you're using like an iPad. I had a slide for us to do some practice, but we do not have time for it. So really quickly, I'm going to go through some meeting tips, some general meeting tips, and then leave the rest of the time for your questions. It's best practice to require self-identification when your participants join, so you can get used to connecting names with voices and know who you're speaking to. We talked about microphone discipline. This is both on the student side as well as the instructor side. If you're trying to conduct your meeting while eating, you want to mute yourself while you're chewing, because a lot of people, that annoys the heck out of them. I'm one of those people. Okay. You can make sure you teach to the camera. So when you are looking at the camera, it's like you're making eye contact with your students. I haven't been doing that because I have all of you here as well as my Zoom people. But with you, I assume you're not going to have, you know, people in front of you. It's going to be your virtual participants. And if you look into the camera, it's like you're making eye contact with them. And it really helps them develop a vested interest. It's easier to maintain their attention when they think that you're really talking to them. And to do that, you look at the camera. This is just a tool. You know, you all know your subject matter and your pedagogy better than I do. You have to decide how and if this tool is going to be useful for your class and how you can best use it. The tool is only there to support your teaching. It's not going to do anything for you, so remember that. I would recommend that you start your meeting early. That way you have chances to iron out any sort of kinks that may arise. And I do recommend that you practice before going live with students. Get a couple meetings under your belt so that you're familiar with how to do things, like with you know, your colleagues or your family members or somebody that you don't care if you flub in front of, before you have a go live meeting with your students. If possible, use dual monitors. Dual monitors makes everything easier. You can have some documents open on this screen, like I have my presentation notes open over here, and then I have my shared screen here. It's way harder to do with just one screen. And I understand that's not always possible, but if possible, make that happen. And then the whole purpose of using Zoom is to be able to have conversations, to be able to have back and forth with students. So consider, if you are a lecture-heavy person, to cut back a little bit on the lecture and encourage more of a discussion-based lesson plan. Always record so that you can see what you covered if you forget, so that you can share with students so they can access it later, and make use of annotations to help highlight what you're talking about. And now, don't be afraid to use Zoom. Molly and I are here to help you. Normally, we'd be able to do as many one-on-one sessions as we need. Right now, that's not really possible, but we will try very hard to find someone, like Gail said, maybe an instructor who's very comfortable with this, someone that has the time to be able to give you the one-on-one that you need. Once things are back to normal, we will be more than happy to spend as much time as you need. Yes?
When you're using dual monitors, is it going to be showing both screens in your recording?
Yeah, it does look like the only option. So the question was, if you're doing dual screen, can you share both screens or just one? It looks like you can only show one. One thing I neglected to mention, and we don't really have time, but there's a whiteboard feature. So you can share a whiteboard and have like a virtual whiteboard that you can annotate rather than showing your screen, which might be handy to do. Yes, I think Susan was next.
If I want to show like a YouTube video or something, I'm on the more, do I have to click on share computer sound so that they can hear any sound coming from anything I'm playing? No.
So they probably be able to pick it up through whatever microphone they hear you, if it's loud enough. But it'd probably be better to share the computer sound when you're sharing a video. Yes, good question. Yes.
So on a computer here at school, how do I how do I find or know that the microphone and the camera are working? I don't.
That's a
know
great
how to
question.
get to that for here.
Sure, that's a great question. So when you first, the question was, how do you ensure that your microphone and your camera are working when you create your meeting? The first thing that you do after you create a meeting is Zoom notifies you with a window that says test sound, and you'll be able to see yourself in a video screen to know that your video is working. And then it'll play some noise, and you'll say, yes, I heard this, or no, I didn't hear it. And then it'll ask you to speak, and then it'll play back what you said, and then you'll say, yes, I heard myself, or no, I didn't hear myself. And if you can see your video and you hear the noise and you hear your voice, everything's working great. If not, then you're going to have to do some troubleshooting.
That's the question.
The issue could be one of 100 things, unfortunately. So
the computer in my classroom is already set up so that if I say yes, there's already a microphone there someplace.
So most laptops will have built-in cameras and microphones. The desktops will not, and you'll need external tools to do that. So the FSC has no more webcams. We've given them all out. We have some loaner webcams and some microphones, but very limited numbers, and they've already gone out. I am not telling you whatsoever to buy anything on your own dime, but like Gail said, we're working to get resources available to you. It's an imperfect situation, and we're all running in panic mode right now. So thanks for your patience. Yeah.
So if the microphone doesn't exist, okay, so then because they could see the video, they could see my computer as long as they're logging in.
Yeah, and you can join by a phone.
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
I mean, is there like a conference? Is there like a conference call feature? How would I do that if the microphone is not working?
So you can dial in via your phone as well to meetings and participate audibly with your phone. That's not going to handle the video, but at least you can talk.
If they can see, and if I can,
right, then you can call in.
I can talk onto my phone.
Yeah. And in the bulk of information where it gives you the link to join the meeting, it also gives you phone numbers you can call in. And then you just call in one of those numbers, and then you've joined via your phone, and they'll be able to hear you through your phone.
So they don't have to join by the phone. I just have to join with my phone.
Correct, if you don't have a microphone, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are running into Panopto time, and there are some people on Zoom here for Panopto. So I'm just going to take like 2 more questions, and then we have to transfer over to Molly's Panopto. So you had your hand up for a while. So you should be able to run it through the website without downloading, and we can take a look and see why that's not working. It could be a number of things, but you shouldn't have to download. If you want to download, you will have to download on each tool individually. Lisa? Yes. Yeah, so if you don't want to share your screen to mark up, you can share the whiteboard, and it would be like a whiteboard up here, just a blank thing that you can write on and annotate on and everything like that. Yes. Yeah. So lastly, I do want to encourage all of you who feel like you could get some benefit of attending Zoom again. We are doing it tomorrow, Saturday, as well as all next week. We're also doing Panopto tomorrow and all of next week, as well as several other training sessions on different tools that might be useful for you. I do encourage that you go to the staff development registration site through the intranet and register for whatever tools you might find helpful. And if you feel like you can give presentations on certain tools, if you know you're a Zoom expert, feel free to volunteer to run those, especially if you're located at other campuses. There's Molly and myself, 2 people. We have a lot to do, so we are really asking for any help if you feel comfortable.